Hello, and welcome to another conference. Glad to have you with us here today. I don't know what your day's been like, but my day's been very busy and very productive, uh, but just a lot of things going on. So I invite you to join me um, in just taking a moment and taking all of our energy and thoughts and everything and just bringing them into center, grounding ourselves and allowing ourselves to just focus on ourselves for a few minutes. Um, so, if you would, just close your eyes, take a deep breath, just breathe as you some nice, deep, full breaths. Nice and easy. Good. And now, in your mind, I want you to visualize that you're you're outside and you're looking up at the stars, and there's like millions of stars, these little points of light everywhere. And those stars for right now are going to represent your energy and your thoughts. And so each time you breathe in, I want you to see those points of light start to come together. And then release, breathing in, and they come a little more together. Release, breathing in, coming more together. Release, breathing in, and until now you see this beautiful golden light, or crystal white light, whichever appears for you is perfect for you. And it's this beautiful light, and that represents your centered, grounded thoughts within. And now, next to you, as you lay on the grass looking up, next to you is this box. And we're just going to take the thoughts about what's happened earlier. We're going to just take those and we're going to put them in the box. They'll be there when we're done. And then the things on our to-do list after we're through with the conference, we're going to take those and put them in the box. And then any emotions that are incongruent with peace and centeredness, we're going to take those, put them in the box. We'll deal with them later. And so now we're this beautiful light, free of all distracting thoughts and worries and regrets. And we're able to just be here right now. Be right here, right now. Good. So today, we're going to talk about how to find peace when there's so many things in our life that are out of our control. Let me give you some examples. Jim is having problems with his supervisor. he's been with the same company for many, many years. And during those years, he always had the same supervisor, and they got along great. They were like one mind. But that supervisor recently left, and Jim has a new supervisor. And this supervisor has a whole new way of thinking, and his priorities are different. And he and Jim just seem to always be in conflict. And Jim is concerned because he senses that his supervisor wants to get rid of him. And so all kinds of fears come up, am I too old to find another job? What's going to happen to my home if I lose my job? Excuse me. What's going to happen to my family? Just those typical fears and worries. Excuse me. Then we have Amanda and Steve. Amanda and Steve have been married for 14 years. And they've gone together since they were like in freshman year of high school. And for a really long time, they were just one mind. And they got along great. And things were just really, really wonderful between the two of them. But then, like 2 years ago, Amanda sensed that Steve was pulling away emotionally. Excuse me. And they used to have long talks, and now they're not having hardly any talks at all. And I've got this tickle that just won't go away. My apologies. So now Steve he's spending less and less time at home. When he is home, he doesn't want to talk. And Amanda is just really feeling a lot of anxiety and worry because Steve has been her whole life, from her earliest memories. And so her fears are coming up of what can she do to change Steve's mind? What can she do to save her marriage? What is she going to do if the marriage ends in divorce? Again, those types of feelings. Third example. Brenda has been a massage therapist for 12 years. And for most of that time, she's had her own business. She's had her own studio or clinic, and she's always had a full clientele. But last year, the major employer of the area, of the community, went out of business. And it left a couple thousand people unemployed. And the whole area has been drastically impacted. The community just doesn't have that income coming in. And Brenda has gone from actually having a waiting list for her clients to now she's got about 30% of her available time filled. And she's worried that she's going to have to close her clinic, that she's going to have to give up massage therapy, that she's going to have to stop doing what she loves Again, all of these fears coming up. And then finally, we have Charlie. And Charlie has lived in a rent-controlled apartment since he graduated from college. And he's really loved living in that apartment. Relationships have come and relationships have gone, but he's always had that apartment, and it's always been he's always been able to easily pay for the rent for this apartment. But then recently the town changed the zoning laws in that area, and the owner of the apartment complex has put out a notice that the apartments are going to be converted into condos and sold. And so Charlie is just freaking out. He doesn't know where he's going to live. He lives like 10 minutes from his work. And so with his income, the area that he lives in, the regular rent is way out of his budget. And so these worries and thoughts are swirling in his mind of, am I going to have to move out of the area? Am I going to have to commute for 2 hours, morning and night? Am I going to have to quit my job and get a job closer to where I can afford a place? And all of these fears are just overwhelming him. And so the one thing that all of these people have in common is that they have forgotten who their source is. The apartment owner is not Charlie's source, although Charlie has been thinking and believing, it's like, well, my happiness is in this apartment manager's hands. I'm trying to remember who it was that was having difficulty with his job. Well, for any of us, if we're having difficulty with our employment, we start to think that our supervisor is the source of our income. Here in Western Washington State, there are many people who are hired by Boeing, and Boeing has always hired and let go workers depending on the number of contracts that they have. So if they get a big contract, they'll hire a bunch of people. If things slow down, then they'll send out a RIF notice, reduction in force notice, saying, we just don't have the contracts, we're going to have to let you go. And so it would be easy for people to think, well, Boeing is my source of income. Amanda believed that Steve was her source of peace and happiness, that Steve provided her with safety and stability and happiness. And if Steve left her, then she would have no source for those types of things. And so if you're experiencing one of these or something similar, I encourage you to just take a moment and just to remind yourself, who is your source? As for me, source is my source. Although sometimes I forget that. And when I start to feel panicked and out of control and feeling like who was it that had The Sky Is Falling? The Little Red Hen or Henny Penny or one of those. Um, when I start to feel like the sky is falling, I always have to stop, close my eyes, take a deep breath, allow myself to get centered and grounded, and just remind myself, who is my source? Because if I'm a factory worker and Boeing, and I believe that Boeing is my source, then I have a complete sense of being out of control, because Boeing could hire or fire me at will. But when I remember that source is my source, whether it's a supervisor or an apartment or a relationship or what have you, then I come to peace, because I know that if the company that I'm working for does a reduction in force, I'm still connected to Source, and I know that Source will provide another opportunity, oftentimes a better opportunity. And so when I remind myself of that, Source is my source, and Source will bring to me what I need, whether it's a place to live, a place to work, a relationship, whatever I might be feeling anxious about. Source is my source. There have been times when I've gone through challenging times, I'll drive down the street. Those of you who are older or who like old reruns on TV might remember the Mr. Ed show, this talking horse. And it had a little jingle at the beginning that a horse is a horse, of course, of course. And when I'm like feeling anxious, I'll bring humor and peace to my heart, because as I'm driving, I'll start singing, "'Cause Source is my source, of course, of course." And it is totally silly, but it lightens that, and it releases, and I'm able to breathe and be reassured that things are going to work out, because they always have. Remind yourself, when it comes to finding resolution for challenging times in your life, you're at 100%. It often doesn't turn out the way we think it's going to, but it always works out for the best. And so I leave that with you to remember. Just keep reminding yourself, Source is my source. And I send you my love. This was actually a follow-up from last week, and someone wrote in and asked if we could discuss this a little bit deeper, which is what this conference was about. So if you'd like to have some things, if you'd like to have some questions answered, if you'd like to have some things discussed, please write me. You can contact me on Facebook, or you can contact me at brad@bradsimkins.com. I look forward to hearing from you. I send you my love and my appreciation, and God God bless.